Have you ever paused and asked yourself, what if I've lost pieces of who I truly am, just because I kept clinging to what was quietly trying to leave? We are often taught that strength lies in holding on, in perseverance, in never giving up. But what if real strength lies in letting go? Letting go, not in bitterness, not in fear, but in peace, with clarity and grace. The hardest lesson in life is not about striving harder, but about releasing what no longer belongs. It's about learning to walk away without resentment, to loosen our grip on what once mattered, and trust that freedom begins where attachment ends. In a world that's always loud and restless, how often do we pause long enough to hear the voice of our own soul? How often do we realize that peace doesn't come from controlling the storm, but from learning to be still within it? Today on Shining Mirror-LVB, you and I will embark on a journey of healing, a journey where someone finds calm in the chaos, and discovers that serenity doesn't come from the outside world, but quietly blooms within the heart. From suffering to awakening, a journey within. Once, she lived in resistance. Every change, every loss, every uncertainty felt like a threat. She clung to people, to plans, to roles, believing that if she held tight enough, nothing would fall apart. Relationships weren't spaces for peace anymore. They became battlefields, where she fought to prove her worth. She fought hard, tried harder, fixed endlessly, until one day, everything began to crumble. Control felt safe, she whispered, but it was only an illusion. When people walked away, when plans fell through, when anxiety wrapped itself around every breath, she felt exhausted, not just tired from life's chaos, but weary to her soul. The kind of weariness that doesn't ask for another try, it asks for surrender. And it was in that quiet collapse, not of defeat, but of release, that something beautiful emerged. Letting go no longer meant giving up. It became an invitation to return home, not to a physical place, but to the stillness within. She learned to sit with the storm, not to silence it, but to listen. She stopped trying to explain, defend, or rescue what wanted to leave. She just allowed the ache, the silence, the soft echo of her breath. And in that space of surrender, something awakened, a strength that didn't come from force, a peace that didn't need answers, a light that didn't need to shine for anyone else. It was the beginning of her rebirth, not into someone stronger or louder, but into someone softer, more rooted, and finally, free. The truth about peace, it's not given, it's built. Peace isn't a gift handed down by fate. It's not something you stumble upon once everything falls perfectly into place. No, peace is built, moment by moment, breath by breath, in the quiet aftermath of broken plans and heavy questions. True peace, she realized, is not the absence of problems. It's the choice not to let those problems take root in your soul. She recalls, I sat there, eyes swollen, phone in my hand, heart sinking. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Why is everything falling apart? But something shifted that day. She didn't search for answers to defend herself anymore. She didn't reach out for explanations or apologies. Instead, she paused, and in that pause, a simple but piercing question emerged. Why'd I keep holding on to things that are clearly trying to leave? That question, so quiet, so unassuming, became the doorway to her liberation. It didn't come with thunder. It came with clarity, with the realization that not everything lost is a failure, and not everything that stays is love. She began to understand, peace is not about how many people stay by your side. It's about how you sit with yourself when no one else does. It's about offering kindness to your own aching heart. And so she began to walk differently, more slowly, more intentionally. She learned to breathe deeply, to release gently, and most of all, to say goodbye, not with resentment, but with grace, because true love, she now knew, never needs to chain or control. It releases and trusts. Letting go isn't coldness, it's clarity. Letting go is so often misunderstood. People assume it means you've stopped caring, that you've closed your heart. But true detachment isn't cold. It's clear. There comes a moment in life when you realize you don't have to stop loving someone to walk away. She didn't stop loving. She didn't stop caring. She simply stopped begging for validation. She stopped twisting herself into shapes just to be enough. I love you, she said, but I will not lose myself just to keep you. That wasn't anger. It was clarity. It was the quiet strength of someone who had finally learned. Love is not supposed to hurt who you are at your core. That kind of truth doesn't come easy. It's forged through years of confusion, of trying too hard, of waiting to be chosen. But now, she no longer needed to prove her worth. She no longer needed to be chosen because she had finally chosen herself. And that's not selfish, that's conscious love. Love that doesn't demand self-sacrifice as proof. Love that gives freely, but doesn't abandon the self in the process. She began to live with an open heart and healthy boundaries. She could care deeply, but also walk away gracefully. She could release with kindness, rather than resentment, because sometimes, letting go is not the end of love. It's the beginning of respect for yourself, for the other, and for what love is truly meant to be. Letting go isn't closing the door. It's opening a new space where both hearts can breathe freely. Even if apart, trust greater than fear, from control to surrender without regret. There was a time when she lived in constant fear. Fear of loss, fear of not being enough, fear of failure, fear of not being loved. She spent her days in a relentless struggle to control, to fix everything around her, believing that if she was strong enough, careful enough, life would no longer surprise her. But life is not a formula to be calculated. And when she realized that, no matter how hard she tried, there were things she could not control. She felt the weariness creep in. She was exhausted from trying to steer everything, exhausted from fighting against what couldn't be changed. And then, one day, a simple yet profound thought came to her. If it's meant for me, nothing can stop it. If it's not meant for me, then no amount of effort will make it stay. That thought was not just understanding, it was freedom. She understood that life was not about forcing things into place. It was about allowing life to unfold on its own terms. She no longer panicked when things didn't go according to plan. Instead, she learned to trust that if something was truly meant to be, it would find its way to her without force, without struggle. When trust replaced fear, peace settled into her soul. Not peace because everything was perfect, but peace because she knew she no longer had to control every step of the way. Peace arrived, as softly as a breath that had been held for far too long. She began to listen to life instead of trying to command it. And in that surrender, everything started to fall into place, naturally, as if it had always been meant to be. From letting go to freedom, you don't need to be chosen. You choose yourself. She used to fear it, that silent, aching fear. What if no one chooses me? What if I'm always the one left out, overlooked, standing at the edge of stories that aren't mine? And because of that fear, she had once shrunk herself. She tried to be easier, quieter, more agreeable, anything to keep love from slipping through her fingers. She bent her soul into shapes it was never meant to hold, just to belong somewhere. Anywhere. But then, one day, a truth bloomed inside her, gently, but powerfully. No thunder, no lightning, just a whisper from deep within. I don't need to be chosen. I choose myself. And in that moment, she walked out of the invisible cage she had unknowingly built. That was the beginning of true freedom. From that point on, she no longer chased love just to feel worthy. She stopped editing herself to fit into stories that didn't align with her truth. She stopped begging to be seen because she had finally seen herself. She returned, not to someone else, but to her own soul. to a quiet, steady peace that came not from someone's validation, but from her own recognition. And in that return, everything became clearer. She no longer tried to control who stayed or left. She no longer feared abandonment because she had chosen not to abandon herself. From that day forward, she became her own sanctuary. Not a perfect one, but a real one, and that was enough. A message to you, the one who's tired in this world. If you're listening to these words with tired eyes and a heavy heart, if your hands are weary from holding on, and your soul feels stretched between what's gone and what still lingers, then pause for a moment, not to push forward, but simply to rest. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to explain your exhaustion. You only need to whisper to yourself, I've wandered far from myself, and now I want to come home. If holding on has left you breathless, try letting go, gently, like releasing a leaf into the wind. If loss has shaken you, try being still, like the moon that continues to glow even when no one's watching. And if you feel lost, remember, coming home starts with one sacred decision. The decision to love yourself. Peace is not a destination. It's a practice. It's a choice you get to make again and again. I choose peace. I no longer chase. I trust. I let go, not out of fear, but because I now understand. What's truly meant for me will never leave. Speech balloon. Have you ever gone through the painful journey of letting go? What helped you find your way back? Please share in the comments. Your story might become a light for someone else who's quietly breaking. Thumbs up if this video touched your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Shining Mirror-LVB, where every story is an invitation to return, not to the world, but to yourself.